Welcome class. I'm Durgesh Kumar Pandey. Class, I'm going to explain a chapter, and the name of this chapter is Plant Development. Class, in my previous classes I was explaining about what is the idea of planning after the independence. After the independence, India was making a plan for development, and it was an idea of modernization and industrialization was very popular. And in the world, there are two types of the economy: capitalist and socialist. So India have a choice. They join कि socialist model of development or capitalist model of development, which idea India should be followed, and what is the meaning of development. In those days, the meaning of development was a very popular, like development means more industrialization, more modernization, and development means also the growth of technology, think rationally, and worlds are divided into develop, underdevelop, or develop. Okay, so class, India was choosing the path of development. India was adopted a 5-year plan development for the country, because the era of 1940 to 1950, this was the era of when the most of the world economy was going to restructure by intervention of the state. So it was a popular. So India was also choose the path कि with the help of state intervention, the country's economic should be planned by the intervention of state class. Class, the first 5-year plan was started in 1950, December 1951, and it was 5 years. And the first 5-year plan was focused on the agriculture sector, and K.N. Raj was guided making this plan for development, and the speed of this plan was hastened slowly, means we take more time, the speed of the development should be slow, and because the fast development was on the India class, and first 5-year plan was focused on the agriculture sector. So we should invest in the dams in agriculture. The Indian government was invest the money in making dams or improve the irrigation facility in the country class. That is why our Indian government was established the Bhakra Nagal Dam class. Due to this Bhakra Nagal dams, the irrigation facility should be increased, and some more benefit come from this Bhakra Nagal dam class. And our government was also identify the problems of land, because in the path of development, the land was the distribution of land was the barrier in the path of development. So our government was set a land reform to make the to goal of development make easy, to make the easy for the development, our government take the initiative for land reform, and the first 5 year aim was also to raise the level of national income of the country, because class if it will only possible ki how we save the raise the national income, it is only possible if we expand less and save more. Means we expand more and save less. So this is the by this only it was possible to raise the national income. So our government was also trying to do this in first 5 year plan, but it was the saving should not be increased, will not be increased till the third 5 year plan class. Second 5 year plan was a rapid industrialization class, because the second 5 year plan was stretched on the heavy industries class, and this model was guided under the leadership of PC Mihalnovich. And in this second 5 year plan, they compared to first 5 year plan. In the second 5 year plan, the quick structural transformation they need, India should have a need to a quick structural transformation. So speed of the growth should be fast. And when the second 5 year plan will going to implement, before it the Indian National Congress was near the Adani in the Madras city. The Indian National Congress was announced their policy is the socialist pattern of society. This was the agenda of Indian National Congress. It was decided in Awadi, the place where the meeting was held, and the Congress was decided their aim is socialist pattern of society. And class, that is why it was looking when Indian National Congress was presented their second 5 year plan. So many things, many features of second 5 year plan was according to this socialist pattern of society. It was looking in the second 5 year plan class. And the government was organized a substantial tariff on import. The government was organized a tariff on the import to protect the domestic industries, like that is with this in our country, like private industries and the government industries both are protected by this policy. And this will enhance the production in our country and make the India independent country, economically independent country class. So sustainable tariff on import. The government want to reduce the import and increase the export. That is why the government was adopted this plan. And in this period, the saving and investments were growing in this period. In the second 5 year plan, saving and investments were growing in this period class. And class, in this second 5 year plan, the government was spend their money to enhance the electricity, railway, steel machinery and communication. These could be developed in the public sector class. Means government was set up so many institutions, so many things under their control, like railway, electricity, steel machinery, and communication. The government was developed these under their control class. There is also a problem in India. India was had no technology. India was backward in their technology. So we have a need to investment. We should expend lots of money to purchasing this technology from the other countries class. And the third 5-year plan was not more different from the second 5-year plan, because in the third 5-year plan class we will generally focus someone saying it was urban biased. The government was focused on the urban area, and someone saying government was giving more focus on the industries in comparison to agriculture class. So class on that time there was also a problem of food crisis. So it was very difficult to balancing the agriculture and industries. The industrial sectors were capable to attract more investments from the foreign comparison to agriculture. So and India have also the problem of food grains. So the third plan was not more different from the second 5-year plan class. Third 5-year plan is generally saying urban biased, means the government is focused on the urban area. Someone is saying government was focused more in industries in comparison to agriculture class. When the model of economy was implemented, there was a key controversy is agriculture versus industry. In the second 5-year plan, the government was focused on the industries, and in the second 5-year plan there is a lack on focus on the agriculture sector. This was a complaint class. In the second 5-year plan, the government was focused on the industries more in comparison to agriculture. So XIIC Kamarupa was present alternative model of development class like rural industrialization. This was an alternative model of development. Government should focus on the rural industrialization. And another leader from Bharatiya Lok Dal, the name of this leader is Chaudhary Charan Singh. He was saying the planning at the center should be agriculture. For any planning, agriculture should be in the center class, because if the government was neglect the, he was saying planning was leading to creation of prosperity in urban and industrial section at the expense of the farmer and rural population. So the planning should be on the basis of center at the agriculture at the center class. The next some other leaders were saying without drastic increase in the industrial production, there could no escape from the cycle of poverty. Many saying without the industrialization, India will not come from the cycle of poverty. So the Indian planning did not have an agrarian strategy to boost the production of food grain. Okay, say they were saying the government should focus on the industries to make the country come out from the cycle of poverty. So class, many were saying that government should be focused on the industrial sector rather than the agriculture sector. Because the government was focused on the agriculture sector, and Indian to boost the production of food grains, the state make law for the land reform and distribution of resources among the poor in the villages. It also proposed the program of community development and expend a large sum on irrigation. The failure was not that of the policy, but it's not implementation, because the landowning class had a lots of social and political power. Class, the government was making plan very good, but actually this plan was not properly implemented, because the person who are responsible for implementing this plan, they were already they are the landowners, and they were not harm their own, because the person who had the responsibility to implement the plan, they already the persons are landowner. The policy is good, but this policy was not actually implemented, class. So that is why poverty will not remove from the country. Plan is good, but their implementation will not possible, because the person who have the responsibility of implementing these law, these person are already landowners, class. The class next controversy is public versus private. Class, when India was got independence, we have a two model. One is the socialist model of USSR, and the first is the capitalist model of USA. So in the socialist model, everything is under the control of state, and in the capitalist model, the intervention of state is a minimum. So we have a two option, but India was choosing the path of mixed economy. And India was also allowed the private player, as well as the government was taking part for the development of the country. Means the public and private both are involved for the country's development. But class, there was also a complaint which was coming from the private player ki the government was not giving too much incentive to government was not doing enough to enhance the private players, and the government was taking more responsibility. Most of the sector was under the state control, and the government was using the license system, and most of the thing was under the state control, class. And this was a complaint by the private players, and that is why, because class, the state was making the licensee and permit system, and if the private players were coming for the production or providing the service, they have a condition key, they take the license from the government and take the permit from the government. After this, the private, after this only the private players were going for the production after a long formalities class. There was no support from the government for the private players to private players were going for the production class. Government also restrict the import the things which are manufacturing in our country. So this will it means no competition for the peoples who are in the involved in the domestic production, and there is no incentive from the government कि the producers reduce the make the products cheaper for the peoples. So there is no incentive for the producers, and there is no competition because the government was restrict the import. So it was enhance the corruption, and the cost of production, the articles should not be cheaper for the people's class, and the state control was more than what is the requirement of circumstances, and this create the corruption and inability in the system class. There is another complaint for the government कि states are not doing well, like in the field of healthcare and education. The government was not investing more money, and the state intervention is only those areas where the private players were not taking interest. So only on that area the state were intervenes and going to implement making a plan, and the state have to the private sector to make the profit. There is a complaint against the government. The government was not doing enough for the in field of healthcare and education. The government was going only those areas where private players were not going and not interested, and the state government is only provide the opportunity for the private player to earn profit, and the major outcome. The first outcome is the economic foundation. Class after the independence, our India was set up the mega dams like Bhakra Nagal dams, Hirakund dams for the irrigation and power generation class. The government set up the steel plants, oil refineries were set up, and infrastructure for transport and communication will enhance in our country, and so many industries were set up for the production. This is the first economic foundation. Now come on the second, on the land reform. The second most important thing the government was doing the land reform. The Jamidari system of the colonial rule, Jamidari system was abolished, and the two land reform, like the maximum limit of the land, agriculture lands, any ceiling on the agricultural land, and the legal security of tenants which was working. These are the two initiative for the land reform taken by the government, and but it was not fully successful. The next is the green revolution. The government was using the HYV seeds, fertilizers, pesticides, and better irrigation facilities. Government provides subsidies and ensure कि after the production the government will purchase the food grain of agriculturals. So this are the major outcomes, and this thing is also known as the green revolution. By this the government was taking step for the these are the major outcomes.